Hey sewing friend, today we are doing project 3, which is a pillowcase that will fit a standard size pillow. Remember that you can download the full written instructions through the link in the description. Make sure you ask an adult's permission before you click that link. You ready to start sewing? Welcome back, Summer Sew Campers. We're doing project 3, which is the pillowcase, and this is a pillowcase that will fit a standard bed pillow. The method that we're using is sometimes called the hot dog method. This is going to be the hot dog method using French seams, which will make it much more washable and usable over and over again, which is what we want when we're paying for our fabric. So you're going to need 3/4 yard of your main fabric, and I got this orange, and 1/4 yard of decorative fabric. And I have these fun suns that are great for waking up to in the morning, I think. If you go ahead and have them cut exactly 3/4 yard and 1/4 yard for you at the store, then you don't have to worry about anything later on now, cutting everything up and squaring everything up. So that's what I would recommend, and just let them know, hey, I don't want to have to recut it at home. Can you just make sure that it's really 3/4 of a yard and 1/4 yard and that it's cut straight? And they should be able to do that fabulously for you at the fabric store. So you can go ahead and do that. We're going to follow our instructions and start with our 1/4 yard of decorative fabric, and we're going to fold it in half with the right sides together so that it's just 4.5 inches wide. So this is the wrong side of the fabric. This is the right side of the fabric. The right is the pretty side, the wrong is the back of the fabric. So we're going to go ahead and fold this in half all the way. And I'm just gonna put it off camera here for a second while I grab my nice big piece. Now I have my 2 selvage edges here and here, and I'm gonna open it up so that my 2 selvage edges are in each hand. And I thought we could do this with a sewing machine here, but it turns out we cannot. So we'll go ahead and move her. Now I'm going to roll this up. So this part is my hot dog, and the part that I just folded is my bun, basically. Okay. So once you have the whole thing, and I know you can't see it on the camera, but you're only seeing half. It's the whole thing all rolled up. So once you have the whole thing all rolled up like that, you're going to take your piece that we folded before and put it right on top. And now I'm going to take this rolled up piece and I'm going to roll it up just a little more, really rolled up. And I can unfold this for a second. I'm going to tuck it right inside. So when I do this, because sometimes your 2 fabrics, especially if you got them from like 2 different manufacturers, the width of the fabric can be a little different. So that's the width selvage to selvage. So I'm just going to match up my 2 creases from the center fold. I think that's a little bit easier to find the middle. I'm just going to add a quick pin there so I know that those are on the center. I'm going to refold this, bringing that center in. Looking at my pin. Just pin that in place. Okay. So now I have my orange fabric hot dog in my printed sun fabric bun. You're gonna lay this flat, and you're gonna pin. And you can pin from this middle pin out towards the edge. You're just pinning all 3 layers together, and make sure that it's just 3 layers. Your whole hot dog piece should be all tucked in over there. And we're just going to pin like we did in the past, where our pin is sticking out, so it's going to be easy to remove. And if you have a nice clean like tile or hardwood floor, this is a great thing to do on the floor. If you have a nice big kitchen table, that's a great space to do that. So I'm just gonna go ahead and finish pinning this side, and then I'm gonna finish pinning the other side, and then we'll be right back. Okay, we have all these edges lined up and everything is smooth. My seam is nice and flat. And now I'm ready to take it to the sewing machine. I'm going to sew with a 1/4 inch seam allowance, which means that from the edge of the fabric into where I sew is going to be a 1/4 inch. And I'm going to do that all the way down the end. As always, when you get to a pin, just pull that pin out, put it in your pin cushion to keep it out of the way, and then keep sewing. If you stitch into a pin, it might actually bend the pin into the housing inside and mess up the gears and whatnot inside your machine. So you definitely don't want to stitch through a pin. It's very bad. When we get to the end, we put our needle up, our presser foot up, and then we just cut our thread. So now we've sewn all the way down this whole length, and we're gonna grab from inside our bigger piece of fabric, and we're gonna pull it out. And what that's gonna do is it's gonna flip everything right side out. There we go. Now you can go ahead and iron this, which is the cuff of your pillow. You can go ahead and iron this, and then we're going to top stitch right along this edge, which means that we're going to stitch about 1/8 of an inch away from where the two fabrics come together. And what that's going to do is it's going to stitch together the top layer plus all the seam allowances and the bottom layer, and it'll give a nice finished look. The first step is to go ahead and iron this smooth. Here I'm doing my top stitching, so I'm stitching 1/8 of an inch in towards my cuff. And if you wanted here, you could use one of those decorative stitches like we did on the bookmark and on the fabric cuff bracelet. So you could have a fun little stitchy here if you wanted to, and if that's something that you enjoyed doing in that last project. Your needle up, your presser foot up, and cut your threads. Okay, So now I've gotten my top stitching done and I'm ready to start putting my pillow together. But I've left these selvage edges on, so I'm gonna have to trim those. Let's go ahead and put the sewing machine out of the way. So your pillowcase will have the main fabric and it'll have the cuff fabric. And as you can see, the cuff fabric has the right side on both sides. And my main fabric, since it's a solid, is the right side on both sides. But if you picked a printed fabric for your main fabric, which you may have, then your main fabric will have a right side and a wrong side. You want to fold this together with the right side out because we're doing a French seam. Normally, if you're going to stitch a seam and flip it right side out, then you want the right sides together. But because we're doing a French seam, it's going to be a little different. So, trying to get this all on camera for you, we want to match up the edges of our cuff here. And I'm going to put a couple pins in here just to make sure the edges of my cuff stay lined up as I fold this in half to make my pillowcase. Now, I want to cut off this selvage edge. So I've got everything lined up, and you can just use your ruler and you're just going to mark 1 inch away from the edge so that we're cutting off all of that selvage edge. Now you'll notice that my end doesn't line up perfectly right here, and that's because my fabric probably wasn't cut exactly straight, and that happens, and it's totally okay. I'm just going to put a couple pins in here to keep this while I go ahead and cut on my line through both layers of fabric. When you cut through fabric, especially big pieces like this, you want it to lay as flat on the table as possible, and you want the bottom of your scissors to be against the table as well. You want everything to be lifted up as little as possible, especially when you're cutting layers, because you want your 2 layers to be the same size. Cutting through all the layers right there, because there were a lot of layers. If you need to separate the layers and cut them individually, right there where all that seam is, that makes sense. For this uneven end on the other side, so this is the side that is opposite my cuff, I'm going to take a larger ruler line up the edge of the ruler with a fold and draw a straight line across. And that's going to straighten out this end. And just cut on this line. And now I can pin this end. Just a reminder that right now you should be looking at the right side or the pretty side of your fabrics. And I'm going to pin all the way around the side as well. Now we're ready to bring back our sewing machine and stitch the 2 sides that we just pinned. When you get to a corner, slowly work your way up to it. When you get close, stop, make sure your needle is down, lift your presser foot up, turn, put your presser foot back down, and then keep going. you've gotten to the fold, you're all done, put your needle up, press your foot up, and then clip your threads. Now we're going to do what's called clipping our corners. So I want to just cut away some of the extra fabric right here in the seam allowance. I'm not cutting my threads. I'm a little bit away from my threads. I'm going to do the same here on this corner. And I'm just cutting away the extra fabric around this corner, because when we do our French seam, there's going to be a lot going on in a small space right here, and we want to get rid of some of what we call the bulk, or the extra fabric that's going to get all smooshed up in there. So now we're going to turn our pillowcase right side out, and it's going to feel like we're doing the same thing over again. And actually, for those of you who have your fabric that has a right side and a wrong side, you're actually flipping it inside out right now. Okay. So you want to carefully poke out this corner as gently as you can. And then same with this corner. The corners are always the trickiest part. Whatever you do, don't grab your scissors and stab in there, or a sharp pencil or something and stab in there. We definitely don't want to do that. We're going to lay it flat and smooth and get that seam along the edge and add a couple pins. And if you can see, I'm doing what's called finger pressing, which is where I'm just kind of like pressing it down with my fingers, kind of like you do with origami, where you fold the paper and give the paper a crease. I'm finger pressing just to hold that fabric where I want it. We're going to pin all the way around, and then we're going to do one last stitch on the same two sides that we've already stitched, but this time we're going to use a 3/8 seam allowance. And a 3/8 seam allowance is just basically 1/8 of an inch more than a 1/4 inch. So you just want to make sure that your seam allowance is bigger than the seam allowance you did in the last step, because otherwise you're going to have weird threads poking out on your pillow edges when you're all done. So I'm going to add that 3/8 inch seam allowance, and I'm going to do something a little different than I've done before, which is at the beginning of this seam, I'm going to do a couple stitches forward, and then a couple stitches back, and then a couple stitches forward again. And that's what's called locking your stitches, and it's going to keep those stitches in place and keep that end of the seam from unraveling. It's okay to go slow where you've got that big bulk of all those seams coming together. And when we get to the end, we again want to lock our stitches. A couple stitches back and a couple stitches forward. And that'll keep everything locked in place. When you're done, you always do the needle up, press your foot up, and then we can easily pull to cut our threads. Now your pillowcase is wrong side out, so we're just gonna put our hands inside it. And you can put your hands all the way to the corners and poke out those corners. There's going to be some bulk in these corners because we didn't clip we don't clip on a French seam, but it should be pretty good. Nice. Now that pillowcase is just waiting for you to put your pillow in it, and then you can rest your head on it tonight. Okay, wasn't that so fun and easy? Thanks so much for joining me. I can't wait to share with you product number 4 of Summer Sew Camp. See you right back here real soon.